Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Morning, wherever wherever you are, as someone said earlier. A little bit of a different voice and switching it up old school today. My name is Joshua Hoskins. I will be filling in with the help of Bill Greenhall for MVP Office Hours, number 31. Wow. I was around for the first couple. I originally started this program as an MVP, and Jared Kingston has given it life. And today we're giving him the day off because it is his 5th wedding anniversary. So if you guys have him on Twitter, if you guys know his handle, go ahead and give him a shout out on his handle and just say happy anniversary. I think he's in Denver, Colorado today, and he'll be spending the weekend there with his wife, Brittany. So give him a shout out. So anyways, welcome to MVP Office Hours. So basically, for you guys that are just joining today and haven't heard about the program before, this is pretty much an open forum, and we thank you for joining, where you're able to ask MVPs either admin or development questions that you may have. Some of the ground rules are, if you are not speaking, please put yourself on mute, as it's an open line. If you do have a question and we're in the middle of a question, please feel free to chat it in or use the web interface to raise your hand. And if no questions are submitted, I will pick on people. But it looks like we have a pretty good crowd over there. So I'd like to ask the MVPs to go ahead and raise their hands so that we can give a quick and crisp introduction to those folks that are MVPs. Let the callers know who's on the line, and then we'll get started. So over to Andy.
Howdy. My name is Andy Betcher. I'm a Force.com MVP. Any type of questions you have around development, Apex Visual Force, JavaScript, jQuery, crazy, weird interaction operability, interlinking, anything questions, I can help out.
Cool. Thanks, Andy. Brendan?
Hello, this is Brendan Conroy, Summer 13 MVP and session leader for the ADM 201 self-study certification group. My specialty is in sales and overall reporting.
Great. Brian?
Hi, this is Brian Kwong, Salesforce MP. Most people know me because I walk around wearing a wizard hat, and I specialize in things like admin and various eccentricities when it comes to Apex and Visual Force.
Very cool. Marty? Whoops, I skipped one, but we'll come back. Marty and then Deepa.
All right. Marty Chan, consultant with Solemn Consulting, and I do a lot of development and integration work on Salesforce, and are also very familiar with admin features as well.
Great. Deepa?
Hi, Deepa Patel with Halak Consulting, Salesforce MVP. I run the Salesforce Certification Study Group on the Success Community, and I'm also the Silicon Valley User Group co-leader, and pretty soon I'm going to be starting a East Bay User Group. We've got all approvals. We're just getting our ducks in a row now, all the setup processes in place.
Great, that's exciting. And last but not least, Mr. Steve Moe.
Thanks, Josh. Steve Moles, I'm a winter 2010 MVP, and I don't have any Salesforce admin or developer certifications, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
How was that?
I think we also have Eric Freshfield out there. He didn't raise his hand either.
Yeah, I just got logged in just now.
Okay.
I am the leader of the Southern Indiana Salesforce User Group, and I am an MVP spring class, if I remember correctly. And I seem to focus my passion on the community and on helping new users and people new to Dreamforce.
That's awesome. Dreamforce is right around the corner. Okay. So for those of you, I guess I didn't mention what I do, but I am a solution architect at Curio, so I help people solve problems. And I actually have problems of my own today. So I'm very, very interested in getting the power of the group on this call to help me solve some of my challenges selfishly as well. Let's go ahead and kick off. I saw some splittering on Twitter earlier today by this woman. Cheryl, are you out there? Because you have some approval questions.
I am here. I have some questions on approvals. And I think I actually called in a few months ago about this, and our process is getting even more complex. And I think I have a pretty good design, but I'm trying to figure out if my design is the best way to go, or maybe if there's some partners or vendors, apps I guess I should be looking at to do this, even though my company, typically being in financial services, we build way more before we buy. So essentially our approval process is complex because it's based on product line item, on discount amount. And different product line items could potentially have, and this is on opportunities, could potentially have different thresholds. So for example, product 1 may need an approval at a 15% discount, and the second line item may need one at 10%, and then maybe the third one always needs an approval. So what we've done so far with this, which seems to be working, but it's just kind of clunky to manage because it doesn't seem, at least from what I can see from a declarative standpoint, that you can actually do this through the actual approval process. So what we've kind of come up with as far as design, and we're kind of just working on a POC right now, it's not out there in production, is we've essentially assigned stuff to the different products in the product table. We have a field on what the discount percentage is, or like if it's all the time, we have a way to flag that. And then what we've done is we've built essentially a custom object to kind of handle all this stuff. And then, as stuff is hitting, we have like a whole bunch of Visualforce and Apex. And our process is getting more complicated because now we're going to have multiple layers of approvals. So if, let's say, product 1 has a 15% threshold on approvals, but let's say the discount is actually 50%. So they want to have different thresholds. So like there's an approval at 15%, at 25%, at 50%, or 50% or greater, I should say. And so we need to have and those are different groups of people. And I'm trying to figure out the best way to handle this, and it's so complicated. And I'm just kind of wondering if any of you have ever built anything like this. And I'm just assuming that I've looked through everything with approvals. I don't think there's any way we can do this declaratively, or if maybe somebody knows that something's coming. I don't know. But that's kind of where we're at.
I don't.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to throw it out because it's been laying on the floor. I didn't use any butter this morning.
You didn't use what this morning?
I think somebody's talking in the background.
All right, so here's a question for you.
Yep.
When you submit for approval, are you submitting at each product line item, or are you, when the reps are done selecting all the discounts, are you submitting at the opportunity level? Because here's the thing. If you try to use the Salesforce traditional approval process, you have to click on the submit button to submit for approval, and you have to build in, all the fields have to be, built into the opportunity record to kind of make the criteria work. So the first question is, do you have to submit at each line item level? Because that in itself is extremely difficult to do, where you have to submit at each line item.
Yeah, so what we've actually done is we're actually submitting at the opportunity level, but we actually have Apex. Sorry, I should have added that before. And we already have this pretty much built out and working, is that when a sales rep goes to a certain stage, it actually checks. We have a trigger, I believe, that actually checks if any of the products have hit their threshold by what's actually populating into this custom object, and then we actually route it for approvals. That's the only way we could figure it out. So we are routing it based on when it hits a certain stage.
Yeah, and that the only way to do it is with a trigger, because otherwise you have to manually click the submit button.
Yep. And so I'm just trying to figure out, I guess, has anybody built anything? And I'm trying to think, one thing that we started to throw around is maybe actually because I think a lot of it has to do with how opportunity products work. And, now we're starting to throw around, like, maybe we should just dump the idea of opportunity products and build our own thing that can have approvals, that we can do it, because, there's some things that, some things may not go to approvals together, or they need to go to different teams because there's so much different product management teams. We have, in the course of some of our price book, like 15 to 20,000 products. So it's very, very complicated.
Wow, 15 to 20,000. Yeah. So here's what I'm going to say. I'm kind of in a, not exactly the similar situation, but kind of in a similar situation where we're starting to look at, because this is a classic CPQ problem.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And we're starting to actually look at third-party products. Like, have you guys looked at Apttus at all?
Yeah, we actually use them for our agreements, and they're actually on my list of people to talk to. And I think that's one of the things I suggested to our product owner. But kind of just like kind of the thing with my company is they want to see if we could really, really build it first before we actually
sometimes reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
You're spending and wasting so much more money than actually trying to see if your requirements are met.
Yeah.
Like the two vendors that we're looking at there's how big is your company? Because there's a company called Selectica, but their minimum users is 200 users.
Okay.
There's a company called SteelBrick, which I'm actually going to be looking at their demo next Tuesday.
Okay.
So I can kind of post, I can kind of give a high-level overview on the MVP officers, but not much because, remember, they're a vendor and we have to be equal to every vendor.
Okay.
But the two vendors that come to my mind is take a look at SteelBrick, take a look at Apttus. You guys will be running around in circles so much if they can provide the solution that you need, right? Like you guys know your requirements. I would say talk to those vendors. In situations like this, reinventing the wheel is going the wrong way, really.
Okay. That's what I started to suggest things like that, but I wanted to kind of talk to you guys to see what you guys thought. And to answer your other question, in this particular org, we have about 3,000 users. Our overall company has, between our parent company, sister companies total, we have, I think, between all of our Salesforce orgs, and I'm not sure how this would work, because this process, we're going to try it in this one org, but probably we'd want it to work in the different orgs. Between all of our Salesforce orgs, we have like something like, 17,000 users.
Wow, you guys are huge. Okay, so Selectica is something that might work for you guys as well. So now you have a choice of 3 vendors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So I agree with Deepa. It is a classic CPQ problem. I mean, if you've got that kind of scale, I know you're looking at sort of, rebuilding. But one of the things I heard you mention in terms of making, is this something that we should do custom? And I think one of the reasons that you use approvals is because it's got the fancy email approval. It can, you can reply yes, no. And so when you take a look at using custom and you're not leveraging the approvals on that custom object, then you say, well, how do I delegate approvals? How do I, email approvals? And some people try to go down the email parsing route, and that's just never good either. But you've got a lot of scenarios to sort of to look out there. I think the one thing I would say is that if you look at the dimensions that you have, it may make sense to build out sort of a control table about how you measure this and how you route things. And so if you do that, you can get your dimensions because you went with like one implementation, and then you've got like additional requirements that we're trying now to add on to those. So if you have like one control table that sort of maps all this out, it may be good to at least build that and manage that inside of Salesforce to some extent, and then you can kind of take a look at then how you can execute it. But you're not going to be able to execute it inside of Salesforce unless you can build it in Salesforce from a source perspective.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Thank you very much.
Cool. No problem. All right. So if you have any more questions, feel free to raise your hands. And Bill, if you're out there, I've got this little spinning wheel saying lost network connection. I don't know why. But I'm relying on you to be my eyes and ears. I can still hear everyone. So who's next?
Go to Erica.
Hello. So my question is related to a trigger that I've developed. It's actually my first trigger. It's my first delving into the code world of Salesforce. I've done everything declaratively for a number of years now. What I'm trying to do and what I've successfully been able to do is when one record, custom record is created and it's given a particular type value in that field, I wanted to generate a second record, and I was successfully able to do that. My problem, though, is that it's not, I want the name of that second record to be the name of the contact related to the first record, and I've gotten it to pass the contact ID into the name of that second record, but I can't get it to actually read the name. So instead of it saying Erica Johnston, it's saying 001472ABC, yada, yada, yada.
This is Andy. What you can try doing in your trigger, you're doing probably object.contact ID under C, something like that is the field name?
I'm actually, so the middle object being created is called a toolkit record.
Okay.
And when that is given the value of a trial for the type, I needed to create another, what's called a retail toolkit record, which is something completely different. Both are linked to the contact.
Yep.
Toolkit is related to the contact via lookup. Retail toolkit is actually a child and a master detail to the contact. So I do have a variable. I just don't think I picked the right variable, and I didn't know if I needed a SOQL query to pull the first name and last name into the trigger to give it that name.
You shouldn't have to.
Okay.
There's something tripping in my head here about using a relationship inside of an insert query, but you can try this first.
Okay. Do you want me to post the trigger? Would that be helpful?
Yes, that would be immensely helpful.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, just stick it on like Pastebin or something. And
okay, so it's in the chat.
I'll paste it out. I'll paste it out.
Awesome, thank you.
So the value that works is name, but where I want it to add the contact is where it's incorrect. So
there we go.
Okay.
Trigger okay. If type is trial, new r.name equals t.contact.r. Yeah, that's where my brain is clicking up, because that's the proper relationship field relationship to use to call that. But you may have to do like a map before you go through the loop. If you make a new map and then do a SOQL query to get all of the contacts from the contact table where the contact ID is in the ID in your records there, then you can pull out of the map. Then you can do it that way.
Okay, so I am going to need a SOQL query before I tell it to insert the new record.
Yep, but make sure you don't do it within your loop though. Do a map outside of it and then just reference the map inside your loop so you're bulk safe.
I have one question. Is that trigger actually saving? Because in my experience, you can. Okay.
Well, in the sandbox it is. If I manually go and I create a record in the sandbox for a toolkit and I give it a type of trial, and once I click save and I go back to that contact record, I have a related retail toolkit record as well.
Okay. It's just
that's because it's an after insert.
Yeah, she's doing it's the after insert, but she's not modifying the original record coming in. She's spawning off a new record after it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Does it not look like it should be functioning correctly?
No, I was just more curious about the contact __r.name. For some reason, I thought when you're working with contact records, you only have access to first name and last name.
Oh.
That's a good point. You could try that too.
So can I just concatenate? Can I just set the name of the second record to be a concatenation of contact __r first name plus last name?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, that should work.
Yep. The only other kind of related topic, but related to bulkification, the last line of your trigger there, just you have an insert right inside your loop there. If you at the very top of your trigger before you go into the loop, if you declare an empty list of the toolkit, a list of toolkit, add that record to the list, and then at the very end insert the list. the way it sits right now is if you insert more than 100, or if you data load in more than 100, or modify more than, or I should say, just insert more than 100 records, you're going to get a limitation kick out that's going to cancel the whole transaction because you can only do 100 DMLs in a loop.
Okay.
Or 100 DMLs in a transaction.
So can you
Yep.
Can you just repeat that one more time? So I need to list all of
it's
the
called
records.
bulkifying. It's
Okay.
called bulkifying, and I think we can find there's probably an article out there around bulkifying triggers that will make it really, really easy. I'll find that for you and post it in the chat.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
All right.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank
Was that
you.
helpful?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Cool. I found the bulkifying. I'm going to throw it in the chat. Bill, if you could put that up on the chatter, that'd be great.
Okay.
All right. Next one up is Nancy. You're out there? Nancy?
Hello.
Hey, how
Hi.
can we help you?
Okay, you're reading my inquiry about managing distributor leads without having them access without them having access to our Salesforce. Is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Yeah, so
is that on MVP office hours?
Yeah, so her question was, and you just have to go in more depth. Her question was, she's looking for tips on managing distributor leads without having the distributors have access to the Salesforce. So how she could have distributors look at leads coming in. And please expand upon that on any way, Nancy.
Okay. So we've got some partners that may or may not use Salesforce on their own end, and our workaround to try to track their leads and that type of thing is we've built them web pages so they fill out all the forms like they would on our website, and they click submit, and it dumps it into our Salesforce, just the way visitors to our webpage do. And then once a week, I can export a report and send it to their management so they can see what leads were registered. But I was asked to find if there isn't something a little more user-friendly, robust, helpful, because I'm pretty sure if we integrate our Salesforce, it can't be undone. Is that correct?
Maybe you want to take that? I mean, there is a product called Salesforce to Salesforce, but we don't talk about it. And there is also. So I mean, how many distributors are we talking here?
We can just talk about one for the sake of.
But is it hundreds or is it a couple? I mean, is it a big, massive amount? Yeah.
One company with maybe 60 sales reps.
And are you responsible for giving a report to just that one person, or I mean that one company, or each of the sales reps individually?
No, one manager.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking lo-fi funk. I mean, you could potentially, when the lead comes in, spawn off a workflow rule that emails out to whoever needs to get that notification of the lead as well, so that they have early visibility to that. I think one thing you have to think about when working leads and dishing leads out is the lag time from the time that someone says they're actually interested till someone actually gets to work it. So you might consider actually firing off another email with information that's actionable to the distributor at the point in time it's registered, and then
let
maybe
let me try to clarify that. They're just letting us know they're working a lead. So in case our salespeople come across this person, they don't touch it. It's just notification.
Okay, got it.
And they might be moving that lead through the process in their Salesforce, but it's just sitting there in ours. And down the road, we might see an order come in, so someone might put two and two together and know to convert the lead and then create an opportunity and then close it. But it just seems like a lot of manual labor on our end. I don't know. We can't be the only people who sell through distributors, so someone must, have some type of solution for this?
There's also called partner communities, where you can give your different partners login access. It looks a lot like Salesforce. It just you have to look at how many people you're gonna have a login, because they're not selling it more for just like one distributor login. It's if you have multiple partners logging in. But you might want to talk to your AE about what maybe pricing you can get on that, and do some searches on again partner community. So you're giving your partners access to certain data in your Salesforce. In this case, leads.
But I'm sorry, how is the lead moved along through the process, converted to an account, opportunity created, products populated, dollars adjusted, as they may or may not adjust the sales price, close probability adjusted?
Okay, so here's the thing. This comes down to process flow. And the thing is, I'm assuming that you have an internal manager that manages this distributor.
Well, I can see why you would assume that, but put it this way, I'm the admin and everyone's looking at me to personally do something.
So Cheryl Feldman's on the call. She said she's done something similar to this. So maybe Cheryl, do you want to kind of jump in and talk about it with the communities?
Sure. I mean, I can talk to it now if you'd like.
Yeah, please.
Sure. So what we have, and we've had it for a long time, so we have a similar process. So we have partners that actually take our data and redistribute it in their products. So what we did, we actually rolled out the partner portal. I want to say it was in 2007, 2008. And what we do is we actually expose a custom object, because this requires, from our process, I'm just talking about our process, and this kind of may help you with, ideas, is that we expose a custom object where the partner actually puts in the information of their clients that they want to access data. We make sure that they have a contract with us, which a lot of them do, because it's kind of like cross-selling. And then what we do is we actually, if they don't, so this actually custom object, once it's created, it actually goes to, we have a sales team that just deals with this. Our company is very big, so we have different teams of people that deal with different types of things. If they check it and there's no, contract or whatever, they have a button where they can create a lead. And then what happens is that we actually have a trigger that updates back the custom object and puts some information in there, so the partner can actually follow what's going on. Now, it sounds like your process might be a little bit different, but that's what we've done. And we found we're converting. We don't use the community yet. We're in the process. It's on our roadmap in Q4 to actually convert over to the customer community. I think, or maybe it's a partner community we have to convert over to. But, yeah, that's essentially what we do.
That's awesome.
So, but here's the thing.
That's what that handles these things. It's just me. There's no department.
Yeah. Go ahead, Deepa, please.
So what I was going to say, she said was without using a Salesforce license. So even what Cheryl Feldman talked about, that still requires a Salesforce partner license to log into the partner portal or partner community. And that's what I was going to suggest, that if you truly have a distributor system, you have two options, basically, even though it's you right now, and obviously management is looking up to you to give them a solution. And you have two options. A, you can get a partner community license and get the partners involved with a partner community license. The good thing is you can expose your lead object or your account object or your opportunity object to the partner, and so they can be held responsible for driving the updates to what's happening during the lead lifecycle and the sales lifecycle. Or you literally have one person internally that becomes a partner manager, and this person is responsible to manage what's going on at the partner based on the communications that they have with that person. That allows you to do it without a license. If you do a partner portal, like partner community, you need a Salesforce license. So those are your only two options, the way I see it, the way we've done it with customers, and the way customers do it. It's you either have one person who manages that distributor, and that person is responsible to constantly communicate, and it's their pipeline. They're the ones who are managing the partner leads. They're the ones who are managing the partner pipeline. They're the ones who are doing all of that work to make sure that that gets into the VP's forecast, or you give access to the partners, to the partner community. And, if it's one distributor, you start with one distributor, and then as you add distributors, you can add distributors. But those are the only two options I see if you truly want to manage the process. Otherwise, without giving someone a license, you're not going to be able to do a partner community at all. And if you don't want to give a license, and if it's not you, you need to go back to the VP of sales or whoever it is and say you need to get a partner manager who manages this distributor. And it's going to be responsible to update everything in Salesforce.
Okay. 2% likelihood of that happening. The partner community, so someone on their end works in their Salesforce and then logs out and then logs in ours and then does work in our Salesforce. So someone is going to have to do double work with that solution.
Well, unfortunately, that is the case. And I'll tell you what, this was almost 5 years ago when I started with Salesforce, and I was a partner with Advalogix PM, which is a solution built on the Force.com platform. And we did a Salesforce to Salesforce connection. And the reason why, Joshua said we don't talk about it, there's some really gotchas there. When we did a Salesforce to Salesforce, he set it all up. All of a sudden, their process was overriding my process. And so if you try and use that, that's going to give you the gotcha of your process is not going to mix with theirs, and if it's not set up correctly, you're going to run into problems. And so, the way we work, us consultants work, I have my own Salesforce. I use one browser for that, and I use another browser for client logins. Now, granted, we're not sharing data, but unfortunately, that would happen, yes. So if you do a Salesforce to Salesforce, you have to make sure that everything that you've set up is configured correctly. Now, that's why I think Joshua was asking, how big is your company? How many salespeople?
We've got about 10 salespeople here.
Okay, so you guys are a small company.
Yeah, we are.
You're not a big company.
No,
and
we're not.
How many? And 60 people at the distributor?
Right.
And are all 60 working on your products?
You mean, are they all selling our product?
Yeah, I doubt that all of them are they?
Well, this just solidified last week.
All right, so you know what? I would say the best option is to literally have someone internal, one of your 10 people, be also responsible for that distributor, and start with that where you set up your internal processes, create a record types for the leads, for the opportunities that says these are partner leads. One person is responsible for managing and maintaining that until you see what kind of results is this partner producing. And if the partner is producing a high enough results, like when I worked at Business Objects, 40% of the business came for channel partners. 60% was internal. If you get that kind of results, then you're better off looking at a partner community license to give them access to your Salesforce, right? If this is such a brand new relationship, you don't even know where it's going to go, and there's so much angst there. So what I'm going to say is what I would focus on is start trying to differentiate the process internally and go back to your bosses and say one person needs to be responsible to handle this distributor. That's the only way you're going to be able to handle it without giving a license.
Okay, so in other words, volunteer to wear an 8th hat or nothing.
I'm sorry, what was that? Volunteer to what?
I'm just saying, for me personally to take that on, it would be like...
you don't need to, you shouldn't have to. No, you shouldn't.
The reason I say that is you indicate that one of the other 10 people should do it. I struggle getting any of them to even use Salesforce, period. So to get one of them...
But see, that comes down to from where it's a management issue.
I know.
Yeah, I would even go further and say it's I think we're trying to solve because if we get down to the root of the problem, I think we've sort of dissected a couple of problems. One is the nimbleness of the organization, right? And then two, the other thing that we're reaching down to is adoption. And so when you have these problems, right, they're like a snowball effect. And so they begin to create a resource constraint and a resource issue. So I think that, when we point out some user adoption challenges, like when we hear people say that, hey, it's a challenge for people to log into Salesforce, right? And that means that we should take a look at that to get people excited about Salesforce and get it to a point where they are actually comfortable using it because they know it helps the day. And then once management sees that, they can start to have buy-ins to the tool that's going to happen. I mean, what we're basically saying, what we're not saying here, is that just because there's a technical or a financial limitation to going towards Partner Portal, because of the size of the organization or where you guys want to go, it doesn't mean that you have to take another hat. I mean, there's other sort of people elements in that are agnostic of technology that kind of should be resolved or we should look at, because that's not okay. Salesforce isn't going to say that I have to work 20 more hours or 40 more hours just because I can't do this without Salesforce license, because Salesforce is going to tell you to go to the community, just because that is something that is going to make your life more efficient long term, right? But what we're trying to find is a way to sort of, I wouldn't say evade, but another solution for a solution that's already out there that's has a financial impact depending on your organization, right? So I think that there's two things that I would personally recommend taking a look at. Is one, find a champion internal to your organization that's Salesforce beside yourself on the executive layer, and take one use case.
I've been trying that through multiple rotations of upper management, sales management, and long story short, none. Lip service.
Still no luck?
Lip service.
Wow.
Okay. Long story short, it's just me.
Wow.
So
Where do you live?
what I was asked to do in front of a room of 70 brand new, very excited partners is find the solution that would automate them registering their leads in our Salesforce. And what I already knew is it's not that simple. And I was kind of hoping you could point out something I didn't already know, but it sounds like you're confirming what I already know. Human input is required and or a lot more money. So that kind of answers that. But thank you.
And maybe it's not money. Maybe it's just an investment of adoption, right? Maybe it's an investment in confidence in the platform. It doesn't always have to translate to monetary value, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yep,
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So really quick, Josh, before we go to the next question, I think we got another MVP on there, James. I wanted to kind of embarrass him out there and have him introduce himself.
Sure. Thanks, Jay.
Just introduce yourself really quick, James.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Hi, I'm James Lottery, Technical Architect at EOS Consulting, Force.com, and Salesforce MVP. So, hey, everyone.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks for joining.
And
All right,
Andy Venture is giving me some slack on Skype right now, so give him some slack, too.
Nice. Over to Dennis. Dennis, do you have a question?
Yeah, guys, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, so client is interested in tagging. They're using Paste Object. They want to report on tags, which I understand you cannot do. And so are there any workarounds? Somebody mentioned topics I'm not familiar with, but any suggestions for tagging and reporting on tagging or similar functionality?
I thought tagging's going away and it's getting replaced with Salesforce topics.
Okay, and then topics are, you can report on topics, I assume?
That's what I'm not so sure of. Joshua, do we have any chatter experts here?
Good question. I don't know. Are there any chatter experts?
I believe there is reporting on topics. I just personally haven't written a report.
There is. I'm not sure how it works with topics for records. I have an Ori that has it on. I'll check really quick.
There's some
The other
basic reporting, and I don't know, you have some reporting on it, but it's pretty basic.
Yeah, I'm logged into Nord right now, and I do see Chatter there's a report type for Chatter. It is native, and basically what it allows me to do is it gives me the name of the topic, the network name that I guess it came through, and how many people are talking about it, and a description. So it's kind of like when I do Chatter and I mention a topic like a hashtag, right? It says, oh, so many people are talking about this. And that's what it's looking like this report is giving me here. And that's basically it. I get those 4 fields. I'm just seeing if there's anything under network name. There's nothing under, there is stuff under network name. So network name is going to give you, it looks like the customer community in which that topic originated to. So if you have a community and you have your internal org, if you have your internal org, that value is going to be null. Whereas if I have, a partner community or a customer community and that's set up as a community, then those topics will have a network name, and then you just get, how many people are talking about that. So I guess that'd be unique people who mentioned the topic. Outside of that, I do know that there's been a lot of improvements in the topic API. So I think the references that you won't find on the report level will be available via SOQL query and some Visualforce.
So, Dennis, what are you actually trying to report off of with currently tagged?
Customer is using case object, and in a B2C environment, they want to tag cases and customers, i.e. accounts, with different labels and be able to report on them. So that's kind of the gist of it.
All right, so why aren't you using like a pick list field if you're trying to categorize something that's in a case?
Well, they want to be able to do this on the fly and change and modify, quickly add a keyword, tag it, untag it, in a very dynamic way, and not involve a Salesforce administrator to, change a pick list every 5 seconds.
Because it could be new values they've never used before.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed that.
I was just saying it's because there's new values they've never used before, so it's just all free text pretty much.
Yeah, this is a very dynamic type thing, using it on the fly. I mean, they like the tagging, but they want to be able to report on it. If tagging had reporting, problem solved. But if tagging you can't report on tags.
Well, as I said, tags are going away anyways. It's going to be replaced by topics.
Yeah, right. So tags are out.
Yeah.
But they want to report on similar.
Right. I was just going to say, I will say that we've built sort of, if you like to call it like a CMS system where we have articles, and we implemented custom tagging. So we implemented 2 custom objects, one for the unique of the tag that we do an upsert on, and then anytime that tag is sort of mentioned, we create a child tag record to that tag. And it's done through an inline Visualforce page, and it's done through some tagging stuff that jQuery allowed us to provide. But it's totally custom with an inline Visualforce page, and it gives you the ability to, it does the IntelliType for the existing items. But so if you want it to actually be there, you could do custom tagging, but you wouldn't do your tagging inside the chatter. You do it in another area, unless you wrote some type of trigger on the chatter entry to then attribute a child record that was associated to a tag, and that would get you there. But it would be a combination of at least additional 2 objects and then a trigger if you wanted to keep the functionality within chatter.
Okay, so that's
and that would tie everything together.
With API.
Okay, I wonder if there's an App Exchange app maybe that might handle this. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, always take a look at the App Exchange. It's for your number one place to take a look at. If I can find some information around it, I'll post it to MVP Office Hours. But it's pretty simple code. I mean, it's really light touch depending on where it is. It's just the development time to get it up to speed. But I'll see if it's like a top coder contest or something like that I can point you to so you get the gist of it.
Thanks.
And that was Dennis. Cool. Yeah, no problem. I believe Don's next.
Yes.
Don, over to you.
So Don, I'm going to post your question in for everybody to see as well as you have. Just talking. She posted a long question. So if everybody wants to look in the chat, it's also the question she asked about a junction object.
Okay, so this is Dawn. I want to kind of give a quick overview of what I'm trying to accomplish. So we're setting up a contact center using the Service Cloud. What happens is somebody calls in with the make and model of their vehicles. They need a battery replacement, and based on the make and model of the vehicle and the years, it pulls up the correct battery. So we have an object out there for batteries and an object for makes and models. We have a partner helping us with the implementation, and basically what's happened right now is we've got a one-for-one battery for every make and model out there. Even though it could be one battery that can go in 10 different cars, it's a one-for-one. And I'm wondering if there's a better way to do that where it'll still pull it up on the case object correctly via a search or something besides just having that one-to-one relationship. So just put the battery in there, attach it to the make and model of car, and then that would pull up correctly.
Yeah, I think you basically have your solution.
Can.
You need a junction object.
Yeah. So for instance, like you already have your solution. So basically, if you have your batteries, everything needs to be driven from the battery from that. So if you have your battery, then you need the junction object, like Brian said, to be able to attach the make and model. And so your battery could have multiple make and model combinations, and then obviously if you put in the make and model, it will associate the battery. The only thing that you have to be careful about, because it sounds like it's pretty structured data, is if you're not careful, you could associate multiple batteries to a year and make. But it sounds like this would only be maintained, by a select few people. But yeah, you have to start at the battery level to make sure that you get it. I mean, I'll turn over to anyone else if you got it, but it sounds like you have the solution already.
And then that would still show up on the cases correctly, because I know they were having some issues with the way it's done now on the searching. So if they enter a make and model on the case object, it wasn't pulling up all of the batteries that were available based on the way it is now, because it's just like they'll list out the battery and, as I said, as an independent make and model. So what they have with the batteries and the battery prices is, so if it's a Ford Fiesta and the 10 different cars, it's in there, that battery's in there 10 times to get that make and model associated.
No, I get it, but how are you attaching it to the case record? Like, does someone, when they create a case, do they go add the battery to the case?
Yes, it's a lookup field.
Okay, so it's a lookup field to the battery.
Yep.
Which is a custom object.
That's
correct.
Yep. So I think we need some visual force magic here.
Or like the data model needs to be looked at, Joshua, because if you're creating a lookup from within the case record, it's not an independent battery record, right? Like can you have multiple batteries to a case, or is it just one battery to a case?
It's one battery to a case. When you look it up, there could be 10 that show up because you could have a good, better, best battery for your car, and you select one.
Yeah, so this is pretty common. I think what you're seeing is you're obviously trying to use the lookup, the native lookup, to basically be able to put the make and model there for the battery, and you have to have unique batteries. And so that's something that's pretty common. But when you do the lookup search, it doesn't expand against the child's objects that are there. So the reason why I mentioned is really what you need is you just need a better way to attach that battery to there outside of the native lookup phase. So that's why I mentioned maybe you can do an inline Visualforce page where you actually do the drop downs of what you have available, and it actually renders, and you can click on select, and that will populate the battery for you, versus having to leverage the lookup, because the lookup is only going to pull up the unique batteries. It's not going to do anything with the make and model if you don't have anything about the make and model within that battery. And just like you said, you don't want to end up with a lot of different records that are duplicate of one of the single unit of battery, because that will take up space inside your org. So I mean, if you have a partner in there already, it's just that you can change the data around, and that's fine. But you just need to have a more intuitive way of attaching that battery to that case without having to use a lookup field.
Yeah, because today it's what you just said. It's the batteries listed multiple times with one make and model associated to that battery. So it's the same battery can be,
Yeah, a lot of times. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
Brian, you're the
there's not a
Visualforce
junction object to attach them, so I can have a many-to-one relationship. Right now it's a one.
Exactly.
So.
Brian, you're a Visualforce expert. I mean, how would you imagine that user interface sort of flowing to get that result?
You know, I would want to, and Don, hi, nice to hear your voice again. I would probably want to sit down and look at it, but I would imagine if once you have your batteries in your place, your makes, and the junction record there, you could probably fake it with an embedded Visualforce page that makes it look like you have two pick lists, one for your make and one that will display all the correct batteries once the make of the car is selected. And then have that stored on the case as probably two separate lookup fields, one to the battery, one to make of the model.
Yeah, and we have that today. So
yeah, but it's doing it the other way around. So maybe if you have those fields today, maybe you just say, click the magic button after you do the make and the model, and then it will recommend to you the battery that exists, because the batteries will have the child objects on there. You do it today via pick lists or lookup fields for make and models, because those always scale as well. And there are some limitations around, how many years you have, how many pick list values you have for years, and how many pick list values you're going to have for models as well.
Yeah, the years are numeric fields for the years. They're not pick lists. But the make is a pick list, and the model is a lookup.
Okay. There could be less makes than there are.
And the battery is a lookup.
Yeah. Oh no, I think with some Visualforce magic you make it happen. I mean, I wouldn't say your data model is wrong. I would say that you could definitely have a lot less records and achieve the same result if you just put in a Visualforce page to help you select the correct record with the data that you already have on the case.
Okay.
And that'd be using a Visualforce page or a Visualforce page or a what do you call it?
Flow?
Yeah. Well, I'd say Visualforce and Apex is going to get you that, but you could also do a flow, because what you could do is you could enter the year, you could enter the make, and then get back to the pick list, and then you can actually do a query, and you can actually bring back the name of the battery and the ID, and with that you can update the case. So a flow, that's a really nice use case for that as well, if you have flows enabled in your organization.
I didn't follow the question very well, but could that also be done through a lookup filter?
It can't be a lookup filter, because for the one battery that they need to associate, they have multiple makes and models, and they want to be able to put the make and the model and get the battery. So the native lookup field is not working at all, because they don't look up by the battery. They want to put the year and the make, and they want the battery to come up. So I think that would work today, but obviously you have one battery that spans across multiple makes and models, and they don't want the duplicate records.
Correct.
Great.
Cool. Let's move on. I think we got time for one more. Dolores, you're out there.
Hey guys, can you hear me okay?
Yep, go ahead.
Great. So I have questions about data governance. So just to provide background, we are a sales organization, and we are doing prospect research. So we have we use the standard account object, and we've created a custom object that will hold GuideStar data that's specifically around nonprofit tax contribution data. And what I've found is that contribution level is really important for our prospecting process. And what I found is that there are fields that capture contribution information on the account, and then there are also fields that capture contribution information on our custom object called GuideStar records. And what I am interested in doing is understanding best practices on how I can get users to go to one record to maintain the data, and then making sure that I can then populate so ideally GuideStar would be the master keeper of all this information. And then there would be basically a formula field to populate some of the data on the account record. But I'm just looking it's important to have the contribution on the account record for reporting purposes. I just want to know potentially how to implement that, how you've seen customers or partners in the past resolve having data tracked in two places.
Quick question, Dolores. Do you have, is the GuideStar record in a master detail relationship?
No, it's a lookup.
Okay. I mean, I think if you wanted to do this without code, one design could be that you allow users to edit the account value when there's essentially no related GuideStar record. And the way that you can kind of figure out whether or not there's a related GuideStar record is if you want to avoid code, you could use there's a declarative lookup rollup summary app, also published by another Salesforce MVP. So that would allow you to essentially do roll-up summaries. And what that roll-up summary would allow you to do from your GuideStar record on the account is to, at the account level, know whether or not there's a child record. And by knowing whether or not there's a child record, you can use a validation rule to say, don't touch this one, go edit the other one, or look at the other one.
That would be great. What's the name of the app?
I'll post it right now and put in a link to it in the chat if you look in the chat. It's a tool by Andrew Foster, who's another MVP.
That's really helpful. Is there a way to automatically link a GuideStar, this custom object, to an account record based on like a criteria like an EIN? Or would I have to use code to make that happen?
You should, it depends on how those records are getting into the system. Like, are you using Data Loader or integration tool?
I'm updating the GuideStar records with Data Loader.
Then you can do an upsert operation. If you perform an upsert operation with Data Loader, you'll have the option of selecting an external ID. And if you make EIN an external ID on the account, you'll be able to match on EIN.
Okay.
This is Steve. I just want to throw one thing out there. You're trying to ensure that there's a one-to-one relationship between GuideStar records and account records, but they don't have a master detail?
Correct.
Okay. What edition are you on?
We're on Unlimited.
Unlimited. Giggity, you're in the game. Okay,
yeah.
So another option, if you wanted to attack it from the GuideStar record, you could create a custom text field and define it as unique, no duplicate values allowed. And then you create a workflow rule that passes the account ID on the GuideStar record into that unique field. In theory, if two GuideStar records have the same account ID, the second one's going to get an error.
Okay.
Just throwing it out there. Either one would work. Either one will work.
Okay.
Awesome. Cool. All right. So we are at 2 minutes over, and I just selfishly have 2 questions I want to ask you guys. So topic is communities. And has anyone experienced, obviously creating communities, exposing, customer data to the customers, but when you create a queue, the queue is still sort of exposed to everybody, including community members, because it's set to everyone? Or is that just something that I heard about? Has anyone ever tried to create a queue after having launched communities? That would be a no. All right. So then, has anyone on the phone ever dealt with community security?
In what way?
So I have assets sort of uploaded, but I realize that when I'm logged into the org and I have the sites.com side of community set for custom, and I have different assets in there. When people go to look at the URL, they get a login page, right? And even my credentials won't work, and I have to choose log in as an employee. But I didn't know if there was a way to automatically have people log in. Has anyone ever experienced that? Darn, tough crowd. This Friday.
Is this a partner community or what?
Customer community. It's on sites.com. So we're storing stuff on there, but really trying to secure it. And they're a member of the community, but I'm just trying to make sure we only have one login screen, or that we can bypass that login for the second community login when I'm logged in as an internal employee. All right, so be it. I'll post it on Answers and see what I get back.
I mean, the only thing I can think of when it comes to the community and the links and stuff like that, and I have no idea if this applies to you, but I keep getting burned on the whole subdirectory thing in the URL. Normally in straight Salesforce, you've got the na6.salesforce.com/ your record ID, and in the communities you have na6.salesforce.com/ community name / record ID, and the community members cannot access any type of record without that subdirectory being there. I get burned with that on all kinds of stuff, security and access and emails that go out and all kinds of stuff. I don't know if that might be what you're seeing if you can't log in, if you can't access that record right, but I don't know. There's my 2 cents.
Cool. I'll take a look at it. Thank you. So with that, folks, I want to thank you for joining MVP Office Hours today. This is a bi-weekly or every fortnight session, as I would say, here in London. And feel free to post your questions to the Answer community in the meantime, and we'll see everyone back here in 2 weeks. Thanks for your time.
Cheers. Thanks, everyone.
Yep. See you guys.